Victims. Good evening, I'm Steve Rabel.
I'm Monique Mingloven. Cairo 7's Graham Johnson is live in Seattle's Green Lake neighborhood. And Graham, you were there as police searched that house today for the third time.
Yeah, police say they've already been through the house, but they wanted to go through it one more time to make sure they didn't miss anything, because they say the three men here are hoarders, and they have collected some interesting things, including this Model A that you are seeing here right now. This is the second old car we have seen pulled out of the garage here. A few hours ago, we saw a car that was built in 1939. The Packard Super 8 that Seattle police removed today from this home near Green Lake is roughly as old as the three brothers who lived here. The Emerys, 82-year-old Charles, 80-year-old Thomas, and 78-year-old Edwin, are in jail charged with child sexual exploitation.
A little bit horrifying, just because every day there's kids playing along these streets.
Today, neighbors witnessed the third search of this property by Seattle police as their investigation grows.
We're hearing from an awful lot of people now, and we definitely want to hear from anybody that has any information on this.
Captain Mike Edwards told us the case that began with a relative finding evidence of child exploitation while cleaning this home is now leading to new tips and contacts with other police departments. Among the most interested, Sheriff Rick Scott of Grays Harbor County. Since 2009, he's been investigating the disappearance of 10-year-old Lindsey Baum.
We're certainly very interested in what's developing and the searches that will be conducted and have been conducted at that Shelton property.
Scott tells us a major search is being organized for Saturday of this 15 to 17 acre property in Shelton, the home of a fourth Emery brother who is now dead. Scott says investigators found a Lindsey Baum missing person flyer in the Shelton house, which is a half hour away from Baum's hometown of McCleary. Scott says that in itself is not a major find because the flyers were widely distributed at the time. But he notes the Emerys had other relatives in Grays Harbor County.
They would have had an opportunity to be in the McCleary area at the time of Lindsey's disappearance. They certainly would have been the type of people that would have victimized a girl her age.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. As you saw right there, this story has broke a few days ago about these three older brothers who are believed to be involved, at least they've been convicted on or arrested on the exploitation of children. Now they're investigating further to see if some of the missing children in the area is, these stories could be possibly related to these brothers. There's also stories obviously involved in it where people who are family members have been sexually abused by these men. And what's the one thing that's always left out of these stories? I mean, you can see it right there in fine print, but you don't hear the anchors harping on it. You don't hear anybody else out there harping on it. And it says it right there. Police say that detectives found Charles's manifestos about satanic rituals, kidnapping, raping and killing girls that led them to dig under sheds, searching for evidence of potential murder. So in addition to finding all of this child pornography that these creepy old men have, they find more evidence that connects them to satanic rituals. Yet remember, we're all the crazy ones. What's crazy about it is we're trying to protect children and make people aware that all of these children who are being ritually abused do exist. There's a story there. They're not all making it up. And stuff like this comes out and it says it right in plain sight, just like with the West Memphis 3, right? Talking about, they had a blood contract with Crawley. All that stuff gets swept under the rug, right? It becomes about different things. It becomes about, it was about the clothes they were wearing and how they were different. And it shows you what a dumbed down society we live in because everybody ate it up. Because they liked Metallica and they liked Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam and all these bands. Because of that, these kids were wrongfully accused. Despite there being enough evidence to arrest them, despite all of this other stuff that connects to pedophilia and the occult and Crowley. And it gets swept under, right? So here's another thing to consider, because I've said this before. We all look, if you want to walk through life with your blinders on, that's fine. You can do that. If you find salvation through Christ, you can walk through life and you don't need to know these things. But we tend to naturally look at the elderly as these innocent, nice people. And a lot of these old women are old witches who are doing this to their granddaughters. You've seen some of the videos I've done reporting on cases where grandmothers who are in their 70s are prostituting out their grandchildren into these covens, and also being involved in the sexual abuse in their 70s and 80s. Well, here's another story. We have 3 men, 82, 80, and 79. Right? So when you see like people like this, you just go, oh, it's just an old guy living out his days. No. Because when they're in their 30s and 40s and performing these rituals, and now just because they're 80 doesn't mean they stop. We have to think like that, look around like that. Be aware that these people are lurking everywhere. Don't leave your kids near these people. You can't trust in these people in this world. And people go, well, it's a small majority. No, it's not. It's a large majority of these people. This is spiritual warfare. The Bible didn't say it's going to be 99% Christians and then this 1% of bad people. I mean, this is mixed pretty evenly throughout. The problem is that they're cheating in this spiritual warfare. You see, they're not playing by fair rules. There is free will. God gave us all free will. We all know that, right? And these Satanists and these occultists, Luciferians, whatever you want to call them, they made the decision, right? And they picked and chose to turn their back on God because God gave them that free will. But they're not playing by fair rules because they're manipulating the public into thinking this isn't real. So they're deceiving them at every corner with evolution, atheism, all of this stuff. They're deceiving people into thinking none of this stuff's going on. And that's really what the falling away is about. So many people fall away and become lukewarm because they don't even know that spiritual warfare is going on, even though they're told this in Scripture. Because they're being manipulated by the media around the clock. They're being manipulated by these lies and the real fake news, which is the TV. And they push fear, fear, fear. And what do they leave out? They never mention Christ. And when stories like this come out, okay, because there are real stories. Like these 3 old men don't have to be involved with the elites to be low-level, Luciferian Satanists to get caught. Because trust me, if local small police officials find this stuff out, what do you think? They're not going to at least look into it? The elites don't care if stuff like this comes out, because what will this story will turn into is that stuff about the satanic rituals and his manifestos, that'll get dropped. Right? And then you'll get all these organizations who promote Lucifer, promote Satan, coming out and saying, well, there was no real proof that he had satanic rituals in his manifestos. He was just some sick, depraved guy. And everybody will run with that story because that's what always gets left out of these child abuse cases. Now you have victims involved in this family, that these 3 older brothers abuse people within the family. Now, why do you think those victims within the family never came out? Because when SRA occurs and trauma-based mind control occurs, these victims never will come forward with it for lots of reasons, because of the abuse they've been put through, the brainwashing they've been put through, and they know the ridicule they'll face because they know nobody will believe them when they come forward with stories of satanic ritual abuse. And that's why everybody who's involved in the occult works so hard at covering up this side of these things. Because they just sit there and they go, oh, well, this guy got out of jail, the West Memphis 3 got out of jail. Recently, the 2 old farts, they were wrongfully put, right? So all these kids come forward. They all make these stories up. I mean, you have to be blind to believe this. But unfortunately, we live in a society of blind people. I'd hope the people who listen to this channel know better. Even if you listen and you're atheist, you see the common connection here? with these stories and watch how this story unfolds. Because even if they find bodies, which obviously that hasn't happened yet, these could just be, perverted old. I mean, when you're in your 80s, you have all this child pornography and stuff like that. Signs obviously point to them, obviously abusing children throughout their lives. If they have family members who have confessed this, that doesn't convict them of murder. But, if they're going to investigate it, which is a good thing, we'll see where the investigation goes. Because then you get, people higher up coming in, like police commissioners or people who are involved in the Masonic lodges who are Luciferian, saying, yup, but just, leave this part out about the satanic memoirs or whatever. It's crazy, kooky stuff. Could have just been a weird hobby of the guy, and they leave it out. I'll just read you a little bit more about what they found in the investigation. August 19th, Seattle child sex crime detectives say they acted on a tip from the brother's niece who arrived to clean out the garage. The relative called 911 at the home. Detectives collected a staggering amount of child porn. They also found evidence of the sexual exploitation of young girls, as well as children's worn clothing and underwear, children's shoes, toys, and movies. Homeland Security's Internet Child Exploitation Team assisted in the search, which involved digging for potential buried evidence under locked sheds and garages. And that's what just has begun now. Today, they're, supposedly going to other family members, a deceased brother who they believe was involved, and doing digging and trying to see if there's any evidence there. Neighbors in the quiet Green Lake neighborhood along Northeast 59th Street say they always wondered about the dilapidated house and the three guarded mysterious Emery brothers who lived there since 1962. They said, "I'd never seen a girlfriend, a wife, a woman of any type visit the house." And those are things that should raise suspicion. Edwin purchased the home in 1962. Seattle police say the brothers, ranging in age from 78 to 82, began molesting their own sister and eventually molested other young relatives for decades. None of them have ever married. None had their own children or many relationships outside their own siblings. Okay? And like I said, there's the underlying thing right there is about their manifestos, which they don't go into detail other than to say that they found notebooks that had evidence of, satanic rituals inside of it. So I'll keep you posted on this story. These are important when they come out because, listen, they can't control every single story that comes out. They can't. There are people who practice and dabble in black magic and the occult who are not a part, are connected to the elites in any way. And the elites could care less about these bottom feeders. Even if they are their brothers in the occult, they're not going to go out of their way to rescue people that they don't know unless they're connected to them in some way. And then they could be, in trouble, right? So if these old men perhaps say with the child pornography that they found, say perhaps they filmed it or they have videotape of a government official, like the stuff that goes on at Bohemian Grove on tape, then there would be interest from the elites to protect these people or at least destroy some type of evidence. This could just be a sick family who's involved in Satanism, three brothers who are involved in doing this and practice on their own, could be a part of a small coven or cult, or just be Freemasons themselves in their small town. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to be, convicted here, because they're not going to be rescued out of it. But like I said, the thing that'll get dropped, the thing that they'll just ignore, is the satanic part of it. They'll just say these three creepy old weird brothers who were molesting family members for centuries have been caught. They found the evidence. And this is what also plants seeds in the minds of people out there to think that, wow, the government's really doing a great job of going after these pedophiles, when in reality that's not true. It's not true at all. They love these isolated incidents. They love it. Because this is just stories that come out where people go, good, we're going to take care of some of these pedophiles. It makes it seem smaller than it is. And they can point the blame at this some weirdo freak family who, is into incest and all that stuff. And just some weirdos, right? That's what the elite loves. Had they gone in there and found all of this stuff, all of these pentagrams and black, evidence of black magic and stuff like that, they wouldn't be very thrilled. But because it's just, hey, they found a lot of pornography. Oh, by the way, they found satanic memoirs. They know they can kick that under under the bed and nothing will happen and that kind of stuff. That story will not be the focal point of this, when it should, the children should be the first focal point, of course. But that should be something that's emphasized, because it's a common theme in all of these stories that come out. The common theme is, the victims are either claiming to be taken to these places, involved in rituals that resemble Eyes Wide Shut, with people in druid robes and masks, drinking of blood, cannibalism, and all that stuff. That, it's either that side of it or the other side, where someone's arrested, just like the West Memphis 3, and they find blood contracts with Aleister Crowley, right? But we're the crazy ones, remember that. So I'll keep you posted on this story. I wanted to share it because it's just more and more when these stories come out. You could read between the fine lines, and you'll see something there about satanic, ritual, satanic cult, spells and all this stuff. That nobody says boo, because they just go, oh, well, these brothers were clearly crazy for doing this. They were clearly sick. So just add the satanic aspect and the ritual aspect into this, them being really weird and odd people, instead of it being about that and about why they do it and how demonic these people are. I thank you for listening to today's show. I just want to thank everybody again who's supported the channel. My Patreon link below. Anyone who feels led to support it, it's greatly appreciated. Censorship continues on, but I will continue making videos. I've just been taking a light little breather the last couple days to recharge my batteries, to make sure that I'm, not going to hit a burnout with some of the stuff, because sometimes, you go months at a time reading books, doing videos, and you just got to make sure you don't burn out when talking about this stuff. So just been in prayer and doing some things, so trying to keep myself away from this for a little bit. But I want to thank everybody again who has supported the channel. Love you guys. Thanks so much. God bless all of you and your families.